If you've ever had issues in identifying yourself and the other within relationships, or you have difficulty maintaining relationships, then object relationals theory might explain why. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of object relationals theory and how it pertains to the way we view ourselves and other. And I'm going to give you some therapeutic art activities that you can do on your own. Hello, if you're new here, I'm Desiree and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm currently a graduate psychology student with a focus on therapeutic arts. A few weeks ago, I was learning about object relationals theory when I was learning about Freud and Jung, because this theory fits right in the middle between those two. And I thought that the key concepts within this theory, such as self, other, wholeness, and duality, would be a really great video idea to share with you. And just a quick disclaimer here. Even though I'm qualified to offer counseling services, this video does not replace traditional therapy. This video is just for informational purposes only and not meant to diagnose or treat any mental health illness. So if you're feeling that you need to reach out to a professional or a mental health professional, please do so. And if you haven't watched my video on Jungian art therapy, be sure to check out that video right after this one. So object relations theory was founded by a British psychoanalyst named Melanie Klein. According to Klein's theory, she believed that our early relationships with our primary caregivers, specifically our mother, determined how we view ourselves and other, and our early childhood relationships is what was like the indicating factor of whether or not we would have successful relationships with other people in adulthood. It is between the time period of when we're 2 to 2.5 years old, whenever we first begin to distinguish self and other. Prior to age 2 or 3, we looked at the world as just an extension of ourself, and that included the people in it. So what Klein suggests is that at this age, we are looking to go back into oneness or wholeness because that is where we came from, specifically whenever we were in the womb with our mother. This is why our early relationship with our mother is very crucial and important to this foundational theory. But within psychology, we kind of expand upon it to understand that it's not just only our relationship, our early relationship with our mother, but our relationships with our early caregivers that actually determine our attachment styles. And if we have issues in that attachment style, then they're going to manifest in issues in relationships throughout life. Let's talk about what happens when that early relationship between you and your primary caregivers wasn't necessarily developed appropriately according to this theory. So if your early childhood relationships with your primary caregivers weren't the best, or there was some issues there, you may have a sense of feeling like there is no distinction between self and other, or you may feel that you have a lack of boundaries, or there just may be issues in your relationships altogether. So let me give you some examples of how this development when we're around 2 or 3 is disrupted. So imagine that there is a child and they're crying for comfort, but they don't receive that comfort. Rather, they are ignored or they're met with harsh words or anger from a frustrated parent. This can create blurred lines between the self and other because the child now is confused or they're feeling alone. And later on in adulthood, this can manifest as hiding one's true emotions, or they can learn to suppress their own needs and develop presenting a false version of themselves to the world. Or a person may overreact in a relationship, such as craving attention, seeking validation, or they seek external comfort to fill that internal void because they didn't get the care or the nourishment from their primary caregiver that they desired. Or a person may have difficulty accepting dual natures. And this is whenever a person struggles to see themselves and others having both good and bad qualities. And let me talk more about that because it's very interesting. So understanding duality of self and other is very important within this theory. And to develop appropriately, or if you wanted to heal some of your relationship issues, you would have to understand that a person has both good and bad qualities. Sometimes whenever we have this blurred lines between self and other, we get into this black and white thinking where it's like all of this or all of that. For example, a person may get stuck in black or white thinking, and this kind of leads to self-judgment or a lot of negativity. Or it may look like this idealization of ourselves and others, or strive to meet this perfected standards that are just impossible. So now I'm going to read to you a little bit from my textbook on duality. Implied in this approach is the notion of duality in our internal psychic structure, a duality that necessitates experiencing at one and the same time softness and hardness, structure and lack of it, distance and closeness, warmth and cold. So the goal within a therapeutic setting is to help a client understand that within themselves and the other person are these dual natures, such as hotness and coldness, distance and closeness. Sometimes they may feel like they love a person, other times they may feel like they hate a person. And this is just to help a client to understand that a person is not all good or they're all bad, but rather look at themselves and other people as having a dual nature. So now here comes the fun part. I'm going to share with you a therapeutic art activity that we had to do in class that is going to help you identify your early attachment and relationships between your early caregivers. Just make sure you actually do the activity, because sometimes what we think about in our mind is not actually what comes through on paper, and that's the most interesting and fun part when we're talking about psychodynamic theory and analyzing our art, looking for clues of what's happening in our subconscious or what our unconscious may be trying to reveal to us. If you are doing this art therapy activity in real life, then in a few seconds I'm going to put up a screen where you can pause it, but I just want to let you know that come back to this video because I'm going to give you some questions, because I want you to analyze your art to see what may be coming through, just some self-reflective questions. And at the end of this section, I will also share with you my drawing of my art activity and my analysis, just in case you are feeling a little bit stuck. So for this art activity, I'm going to have you draw or paint a picture. So all you need is a canvas, a pen and paper, or you can use a pencil, pens, colored pencils, markers, essentially whatever medium you feel is best for you when creating an image. Now, the image that you're going to create is of your parents. I want you to create an image of your primary caregivers, specifically whenever you were around 2 to 3 years old, and I just want you to draw an image of them. So you can go ahead and pause the video now. Great, so now that you have an image of your parents or your primary caregivers when you are around 2 to 3 years old or whenever you were a toddler, let's analyze it. So the first thing I want you to analyze and look at in your art is the facial expressions. Now remember, we're analyzing this from an outside perspective. I do want you to take note of the feelings that you were feeling as you were creating this art, but under this theory, we don't so much focus on the art making process, but rather the finished piece. Now, the next thing I want you to look at is your use of color within your art. Did you choose to stick with a black and white theme because we were talking about duality, or did you use a wide range of colors in your art? Now, there's no right or wrong way of using color within your art, but I do just want you to take note of that. And if there was a specific reason why you used a color or you chose not to use a color, I want you to write that down, or you can journal that as well. So the next thing I want you to look at within your art is whether or not you drew the face of your caregivers or you drew their face and their whole body of the caregiver. And I want you to ask yourself why that is. Sometimes, but not always, whenever we draw a person or we draw their whole body, what we tend to look at is how detailed it is. Are the hands detailed? Are the feet detailed? And essentially we're looking at how you view your caregivers. Do you view your caregivers as a whole and complete person? Or do you feel that maybe they are fragmented or in pieces? Is your image of your caregivers a little bit undefined because maybe they were undefined in your life? Those are just some things that you want to take note of whenever you are looking and analyzing your art for your own personal therapeutic purposes. So if you're feeling a little bit stuck with this art therapy activities, no worries. I'm going to share with you my drawings of my early caregivers and give a little bit of an explanation or an analysis of why I drew what I drew. And a note to my mom, because she watches this, I am not the best artist, but I think I did an okay job, and I love you and thank you for being a supporter of mine. Anyway, here's the image of my mom that I drew. And taking it one step further for this assignment, I also drew my grandparents. But what's so interesting about my images when I was drawing this was that I didn't draw my father. Now my father and my mom, like, they divorced right when I was like around 2 years old. And I didn't feel that his presence was so important in my early childhood, so I didn't draw him. So whenever you are looking at your art and your early primary caregivers, if you were like me and you chose not to like draw a specific person, then this would be an indication of you feeling distance with that caregiver. And that's whenever within therapy, you would dive deeper into understanding what that could mean. If you did this art therapy activity, I would love for you to comment down below and tell me what you drew. If you liked this art therapy activity and you're interested in more art therapy activities, specifically from a Jungian perspective of what's hidden in your shadow, watch this video here.